Hello there, Harry. How are
Good
you doing?
neighbor.
Hi, how
Not
are
too
you?
bad, neighbor.
Yeah. Harry, I'm getting the feeling, you see, that the country is being dragged away from the serious issues that are affecting us. And we are being forced to focus on something that, although it is not a trivial matter, but it doesn't define the nation. It's the leaking pipe in the one room. So it seems like we have locked down the house just to fix that pipe. What do you think?
Well, neighbor, the thing about it is that, and it's I want to say it's a sad state in terms of humankind itself. Where the attention span is small, so it's a small window, and we've been accustomed or is slowly being cultured into finding the next topic or the next event that can stimulate the mind and give us that rush of dopamine. And that in itself normally comes with, what in Bruce Golding time would have called bangarang, because you can get a lot of likes, it has the sound bites, it is the in thing and the new thing. And as such, persons have now been accustomed to don't want to fall apart at the FOMO, the fear of missing out. So everybody jumps on this bandwagon of the new hit thing while missing the full factor and most important things that are at hand. Now, I don't think a lot of persons in this space has the capacity. They may have the capability, but they don't have the capacity to juggle more than one things. And
Mm,
as such, they are locked into what everyone may gravitate to without realizing that in this space, you can actually dictate properly what is the biggest story, what is important, because there's always a niche to be carved out. And in order to focus on what is priority, the persons also have to be willing to find the capacity, which is finding the time, putting the resources behind it, to speak on the bigger things, to see the bigger picture, and also have the ability now to let it stick and not find themselves being caught up in the commonalities. And that is one of the major things. Not in this generation, not a lot of persons can do that, neighbor. And that is why I speak specifically to the capability and the capacity, because we all have the capabilities to do a lot of things, but you have to have the capacity to do so. And that's an issue from a humankind standpoint. And we've seen it readily in Jamaica. That's why we have the saying, it's a 9-day talk. A lot of people try to milk a story, to milk an event within that short window, not realizing that you have the power to extend the window. You have the power to give life to a story at any given time. But because of the fear of missing out, and want to be a part of the wagon going forward, a lot of persons miss the mark when it comes down to what is important.
yeah. Do you suspect, having listened to the JTA president today, that it is a bit of a distraction, Harry? Do you genuinely feel that he is concerned about this and is bringing it to the attention of the nation? Because he seems very combative and almost insincere. Didn't you get that?
Definitely, neighbor. He's rather adamant and arrogant in this case, right? And he wants to be seen, as I said the other night, the one who dictates the outcome of this current matter. Not realizing that he is doing a great damage to not just himself and the institution which he represents, but also when all is said and done, for those who can see through the potential distraction that he's trying to create, it will be nullified, because this what he's doing As soon as the law catches up, right, and is enforced, he will become part of the 9-day talk and he will be no longer remembered, right? Now, to create an event or to fabricate one, right, and to be dragging it out, you can see right through it, neighbor, that there's no substance whatsoever. You can't get much for those who are running down the story. You can't get much out of it. And for him to be headstrong, he needs to understand that smart people, intelligent people, people with emotional intelligence, sees right through his crap. Because when you look at it, neighbor, there's no reason for him to be continuing. And it shows that he doesn't concern about the nation children. Because this is not how someone who cares about the children, the education system, and the country status behaves. This is a man who wants to, at all cost, set the house on fire, right? And he doesn't care what really wants to happen, because I can tell you, he doesn't have an end game in mind for this either. And people need to look through it and realize, because one of the common things in a neighbor, in terms of the last two, what people would call the two big stories between, between himself and the Jack Den situation.
Yes.
If you look at both persons that are being called into question, they are cut off pretty much the same cloth, meaning they're coming out technically being wrong and strong at all angles, no pun intended, right? But it is not something in which we should be giving too much life. It is a Mark Malaba situation is a dead story, and he's a dead stock. I said the other night that his political career ended before it started, and just as how that died, his tenure and his outgoing story for the JTA will also die. It's natural death. So the distraction tactics and all of that doesn't work for too long, right? Because the truth is, he's going to, I think he has maybe one move remaining, neighbor, before the law is fully enforced on him. He has made his second move. He's stated the first one, where he brought this story publicly without ever reporting it to any form of authority or ministries involved to assist. The next thing is that he came out swinging now in full defense. A defense that is not needed, a defense that is unprovoked and unwarranted. Because this is not a story that the individual who breaks it should be defending. It is a matter at hand that is affecting the nation's children, which is the future. It is affecting the brand of Jamaica and the very institution which he sits at the helm at currently and representing. It is a matter which you would want to expedite. And you can see that his tactical maneuver is to try and thwart and slow down the resolution process as much as he can. And it's not going to go far away. But it is also one in which is a distasteful and unacceptable demeanor from him as somebody who you could have called a leader. And it's only a matter of time before they have to remove him, and or he has to step aside. And then that story dies. And then comes the big story where everybody will run back to. And that would be the UHII situation and Jack Den.
Yeah, but by then it would have lost its thing. Is it not true, Harry, that for the last 2 days, this Malavir is, what is his name, sir?
Well, they've pronounced it as Malava for Jamaicans, and Malavir by the spelling, because one of the letters there is kind of silent.
Okay, yeah, but is it not true that for the last couple of days, Harry, this is what the nation is talking about, and I find it curious, Harry, that we have spent 2 days discussing a matter that could be dealt with by a section or a segment of government. Yes, it is a national issue, Harry, but it is not the biggest story in Jamaica, do you think?
It far from big, neighbor. Far from big. In fact, it shouldn't have even gained more traction than the fact that the ethics committee is now going to call Mr. Gordon once more, which means his Jack Den situation is now gaining even more traction. But that goes under the radar.
That's a massive story.
It is, and it's an addition to what is currently there. So why?
But that's not what people are discussing. What people are discussing is some unprincipled allegation by some unprincipled people that they are performing sexual acts in front of children. That is not
well. Here's why, neighbor, right? And I've been doing a little observatory studies,
Yes,
because while I work through the days, I listen things thoroughly because I can multitask very well. And when I looked at the UHWI situation and I look at the section of Jamaica that is speaking, it is mostly Jamaica Labour Party persons. The other institutions that should be neutral has refused to comment any at all, even though they are duty bound. So the tactical and strategy that is there is those institutions who normally run out on these situations. Of course, we know they have persons planted at the helm. They remain silent, and also the People's National Party persons remain silent. Now, with which leaves just the Jamaica Labour Party person speaking. Of course, the neutrals and other persons won't necessarily be vocal, right? So with the silence of the institution that should be speaking, like the JFJs and so on, and the People's National Party persons not uttering a word because, of course, they can't speak because they can't defend this situation. The media is also playing this situation a little bit downward as well. So it seems like it's more of a political story than a nationalistic event. Now, with the Mark Malava situation, no, everybody else who was silent breathes life into it and let it seem like, no, they're amplifying it to say it is a national problem. And they're now putting the twist and being extremely vocal and aggressive at it to say this is happening under the current administration and they can't solve it. So that's a twist they're putting on it, and it's getting life because of that twist. And then now with so they make it seem like that is a national issue, but the Jack Den and UHWI with the other four companies is not. And people are now tugged between both.
Clever politicking. Clever politicking, eh?
It is, neighbor. And then what happens now, is the situation becomes who is the loudest. And
Right.
then people will know, consciously and unconsciously, look and to say, well, the institutions that should be speaking on the Dennis Gordon, Jack Den, UHWI situation, they haven't said anything, so it can't be that massive. But then those said institutions are now speaking regarding the Malava situation. So people are now looking at it and say, well, if they're talking about it, it must mean something. And the fact that it's only Jamaica Labour Party persons alike speaking about the UHWI situation, they're just playing pure politics. And that is a rhetoric and a narrative being woven once again in not just our governance and our diplomatic system, but overall throughout the culture and society of Jamaica. And it's something we have to stamp out. And I challenge the persons with information who understands it to step up and stand out, right? Now, of course, you have programs like ours, neighbor, who will be speaking on it and won't let it go because it's a national issue. But we also have to do something on the other hand, is to shut the nonsense up from the other side and ensure that you don't give it any life. The moment you it breaks the headlines, fine. You give it the 1 day talk, you break it down
Yes,
for the people,
and you
you
discuss it in
leave
a
it
segment.
alone.
You discuss it in a segment.
Right. And once you, because it's not a story that has much of anything remaining, the
That's
relevant
right.
authorities are doing what they have to do.
Yes, sir.
Right?
That's my feeling too. Yes, you're quite correct.
And as such, there's nothing the public can do. They have no form of influence whatsoever on the outcome of this. This is where you have to trust the letter of the law to handle business. You trust the elected persons who are the ministers in the positions and the overseeing bodies to do their job. And you let that die out of the media. Allow them to do their work because that's what we put them there for. But the most national one is one in which the public the public is duty bound as well.
Absolutely.
To demand more information, to demand the accountability, the transparency, right, of everybody, not just the board of the UHWI and the management of the UHWI and the principal of Jack Den and so on, but also the very framework of governance that is there. Because
I don't want to interrupt you here, Harry, but I want you to restate that position that you just made. You just said something that is so important, that a story breaks in this form. The nation looks at it, says, okay, that should happen, but that the nation and the media do not be consumed by this, because it really is not a national, it's not a matter that should be consuming the national narrative for 2 days at all. As a matter of fact, I think Mr. Malabir or Malava tonight is getting too much attention,
and he doesn't deserve it, neighbor.
I agree with you.
To get this level, well, let me put it this way. For persons who don't know, this is an individual who loves the limelight, who seeks.
I'm sorry. Did you hear him today at the JTA conference, Harry? This man is on a political campaign.
He is. Neighbor, he likes viral moments. From he broke on the scene a few years ago regarding his political aspirations, he has sought after specific limelight situations where he wants a spotlight on him. And as such, he will say viral things to go viral. He will say provocative and controversial things. It is innate to his character, right? And anybody can challenge me on that, because if you look at him and observe from the information he gives you, meaning his demeanor, how he operates, his choice of words, and what he does, because a person's action tells you more anytime than what their words say. And he has been pontifying on this thing that is him naturally. Don't give somebody who is not at the high level your attention.
Yeah.
It is you robbing yourself of very that.
Those people who are listening to us, who will be saying, but we are doing the same thing that we are saying people not to do. Would you want to explain to them that what we are doing is explaining the strategy so that they don't get caught in it? Because we're going to leave this story alone, you know.
Neighbor, I won't be speaking on it after tonight, to be honest, unless something groundbreaking comes up that we here are duty bound to give to our neighbor rights and those who are listening on the For You page and so on. Right? That is the only way we'll pick up this matter, because it is a waste of our precious resource, which is our time, right?
Totally agree.
It is also one in which is taking up. It is robbing efforts and impacts of other stories, of other information that can be impactful and be in an advancement way for other people who are listening, to let them know where we are. Remember, we have still find ourselves in the recovery period of Melissa.
Yes.
It's not all rainbow and sunshine. We have a nation to build. Mark Malava
Yes,
can go and
sir.
sit on one side. He's not a nation builder. What he has
Yes.
done has shown us he's willing to put the country in a bad light to put himself up. They said there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? He is reeking all of that from what is happening now. And as such, it's time we put him to bed, figuratively speaking, because I don't want nobody click me and run, run with it, right? But it has to die, right? And we, as the people, gets to decide that. Just like how we give it the attention, we can take the attention from it. Anything you feed is what will grow. And if you leave that story alone, right, unless, again, something groundbreaking comes out, maybe from the Minister of Labor or Minister of Education or local government, or even law enforcers,
Because here we are, Harry. Jackton, the Jackton story is concrete. The JTA president story is an allegation. What we have here is a story that is rooted in an Auditor General report, Harry. It is a story that is about the public's money. It is a story that involves a sitting member of parliament. It is a story that tests the credibility of the opposition and the leader of the opposition. It creates, in political terms, Harry, it is a high impact story. Now, when you compare that to this allegation, no name school, no verified reports, no formal complaint to authority, this is a claim driven, not substantiated. Why should this story be occupying chats and headlines? Let's drop this now, man.
Yeah.
You don't agree?
Undoubtedly, neighbor, right? The thing about it is that, and what we're doing, I want to reiterate for the persons listening and those who may just be joining, it is us pointing out what we think should have been clear and obvious, right? But nothing beats repetition, because that's how mankind learns. What is happening is that we're explaining the reason why this is neither of high importance or priority.
Yes.
This is no bigger than a simple rumor. Because currently, right now, neighbor, I wouldn't classify it as allegations, It's a rumor. And right. The funny thing about it is that persons have heard a rumor about it before. And when investigation and everything was done, it was stated as just a rumor. Nothing truth to it, nothing factual, nothing along that lines. But are we saying now that because of the JTA president, who is politically affiliated and aligned, come and say the same rumor, we're going to run with it? The same man who cannot provide the proof and evidence. In fact, he cannot call a school name. That is it, And also, what is happening now is that he is also a threat, neighbor, to principals of these schools. Because what he's saying now, because he's being defiant and he's not backing down, he's saying I believe it's 8 schools. Of these 8 schools, one of those principals are lying. Because he's saying he's not a liar, technically, right? And if the research is being done by the Ministry of Education, the regional directors, the principals, other administrative staff, and nobody can come up with any facts, nobody knows anything, then we're left to say, unfortunately, Mr. Malava, that you may be what KD Knight says, pathologically mendacious, right? And that's a damning thing if you're labeled as such when the chips fall where they may. And I don't think he really wants that to happen. But it is time we put this to bed and focus on something that is groundbreaking, something that we need answers. In fact, we have more questions than answers at the current stage with the UHII and the Jack Den, along with the three other company stories, right? That is the main focus. In fact, neighbor, it is going to test our very laws and parliamentarians. You can't get much higher than that. You're testing the legislative arm of government right now, right? Because it's not just the structure of the UHII that's going to be called into question. The whether we want to call it the bylaws or the laws governing parliament, we have to see that at full work. One of the very elected persons may be culpable by law, and we aren't giving that the deserved airtime. We aren't giving it the deserved discussion and conversations. Come on, people.
Yeah.
You're selling yourself extremely short.
I think so.